mind is that message you sent earlier today with somebody looking for Walker.
God.
Yeah, we've talked about this before too.
Yeah, that it was, now that they're home, you know, fans take pictures with them, and some fans where he lives took pictures with him, and then one of the accounts on Instagram was posting about how fans were like interrogating one of the fans that posted that they met him, like asking all these questions about like where they were and if she knew where he lived, and if they were like, if he was like, if she was like his girlfriend when she was just some random fan. And it was just people like trying to find his house and where he lives and where his family lives. And they definitely have done that before. Like we've talked about that before, that every once in a while somebody will post a video like in his small ass hometown looking for him when they're not filming. That always makes me wish that he would just be filming all the time, even though he needs to relax and rest because of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and people were talking about it because obviously they were worried, because the person who posted about it was saying like, yeah, we're aware that his siblings and his family know that people are like stalking him and trying to find his house. And we brought that up when the show was airing because Arian did that interview with the three of them where he was talking about how he I remember the podcast, listening to it on one of the big podcasts, that he just like offhand mentioned that he was trying to get into like a school of some kind. I don't even remember what kind of school it was. It was something to do with acting and stuff. And these two girls showed up when he was there, like for orientation 2 years later, basically. And they're like, "Oh, I knew you would be here because you said on this podcast that you were gonna, you like try to get in, and so this would be the time when you could actually start attending."
I went to like a college kind of like new students acceptance thing one time, and these two prospective students came up to me and they were like, "We knew you were gonna be here," and I was like, "Don't say that. How do you know these things?" And they were like, "You mentioned it once in an interview that you were applying to this school like 2 years ago, and we figured by now you would have gotten in." And I was like, I completely forgot that I had said that. And so the fact that so
And I'm like, that is and like, there's definitely been stories like that with a lot of those are just like the two that I can remember. Arian and Walker in that one video they did for Entertainment Weekly, where they were trying to like guess if the other one was lying, and then it just turned into them telling really traumatic stories back and forth. There were like some stories like that of fans. That was the story when a fan sexually like assaulted Arian.
It was like a Friday night. Hugely drunk girl came up to us and was like, "Oh my God, you guys should go ahead of us. I'm not even lying. This is my friend Jessica." And he was just like rambling on. He's like, "What is your name?" And I don't know why, but I felt the need to lie. I was like, "My name's Ryan." And she was like, "Oh, what did you say?" And I felt so bad about the fact that I just lied about my own name. I was like, "Who do I think I am?" And I was like, "Oh, my name's Arian." And then the girl inside the glass shop heard that and was like, "Whoa, whoa!" And then like 40 drunk college girls swarmed me. And then the original, like really, really drunk one who got my name, I was feeling pretty uncomfortable. I put my hands in my back pockets. I was like backing up.
You're really confusing me here.
And then she reached around, put her hand inside of my back pocket. It's true. Are you okay? Yeah.
So it's definitely not something new. It's happened before, but it's just the general thing that's stalking.
Yes.
And I feel like people don't sometimes. I understand why younger people wouldn't realize it, but older people sometimes don't realize it when it comes to famous people, especially. Even obviously, there's the problem that he is still a minor, and so he has to live at home where his parents live, and there is absolutely nothing that he can, literally nothing that he can do about that, like every kid out there. It doesn't matter that he's a famous child. He still has to live where his parents live, and that's the end of that. And so people can always kind of try to find him because they know the idea of where he lives, because people have posted things of where he goes to high school, which is why all this stuff is always a scary idea. But it's just the general idea that I feel like people forget that, like, these people are not characters, that they're real people, and that's stalking. Like, if you watch somebody's interview and then remember that 2 years later so that you can, like, manufacture meeting them in person, if somebody did that to you, you would be so scared, as you should be.
Exactly.
They should be scared. And, like, they have to and, like, it's complex because they have to deal with that and not show that they're how, like, scared or mad or all of the above that they are, because then it would be a thing of, like, oh, so and so is mean to their fans, and it would
Yeah.
turn into, like, this whole big thing. They should be able to be like, get away from me, and things like that when that kind of stuff is happening to them. But it's just not something that usually goes over well, and so you can see them trying to, like, literally act when they're not actually at work,
Yeah.
to, like, put that, like, facade up. And it's just that whole thing of, like, if you had a job at all, no matter if you loved it or not, would you want to have to, like, do that job when you're not actually working, when you're just, like, walking down the street?
Yeah, it's basically like, for those of you that are old enough to have a job, when you work like a customer service job, say like you are making sandwiches at a Subway, um, you probably deal with a lot of people who, when they walk in, they scare you, but you have to serve them anyway. And you're essentially forcing that type of interaction on them. And I know you may think like, "Oh, I'm not scary. I'm just me." But they don't know you. And they get approached by a lot of people. Some people don't have the best intentions. So it kind of creates this guard that, like, anyone approaching could potentially be like that. And so, yeah, they're going to be a little bit scared, even if you're an unassuming young girl, you know?
Yeah. In particular when it comes to Walker, because he's the one
Mhm.
that is still underage, that is a boy that I know people have crushes on and stuff. He has
Yeah.
verbatim said in interviews that child has social anxiety. That he has said in interviews that he is way more scared of talking to people,
Mhm.
period. Talking to people. He doesn't find acting hard at all. He finds talking to people the difficult part, because he doesn't want to, like, disappoint people by, like, not giving them the conversation that they want and walk away feeling disappointed. Like, and so just have that in your mind. But if you do ever run into him, like, he's not going to be like the picture you probably have in your mind. He's going to be trying to talk to you without sounding too awkward, like anybody would. Trying to talk to a stranger that knows a bunch of stuff about you, but you have no idea who they are. It's
Yeah.
just a very weird dynamic, and they're very young to be trying to figure this stuff out. But adults can't handle that very well. It's just a very weird part of this whole thing, is that people feel like they know you,
Mhm.
but they have you don't have any idea who they are, and they have no clue who you are. You
Mhm.
can't tell people that are, like, unstable, I guess is the word to use. You can't
Yeah.
tell. You can't tell when somebody is just, like, a nice fan that wants to get a picture with them and just wants to talk to them for a couple of minutes, or wants to info dump on Percy Jackson books or whatever, and then leave. You can't tell the difference between somebody like that and somebody who will start showing up to your house every day with, like, a whole, like, fantasy that they've created in their mind because they're not mentally well. You can't tell the difference between those people. And so when you start acting and doing things that feel like too much, like trying to figure out where they live, or like following him around, like we talked about this before, when people were taking videos of following him and his family around when he was at, like, Disney World with his family, the last time they had a break with filming before they did season 3. And
Yeah.
there were videos of him looking right at the camera, looking, like, angry and freaked out. And people were making memes out of them. And I was just like, this is like a disconnect, that people are making memes when he's obviously like scared and freaked out and doesn't know how to handle somebody just like following him around wherever he goes with the rest of his family that has nothing to do with any of this stuff. He doesn't want to ruin, like, do you want to be the reason why his like family trip gets ruined because he has to leave early because one of his fans is stalking his entire extended family? And it's not just him, but he's the one that, for whatever reason, it ends up showing up more with him. I don't see that many stories about the other cast members. Arian had like told us some, like I mentioned, and the other cast members has like reference to things. Like I know there was an account for Charlie that got banned along with one that was around for Walker too, and I'm assuming they both got banned because they were messaging his friends and family to try to like stalk both of them separately because the Charlie one was the one that was posting pictures of a girlfriend that he had before he was ever like a famous actor or anybody at all, and I was like, this is wildly inappropriate that you're posting all these pictures of a girlfriend he had when he was like 16, before he was even in, like, why is this on the internet? This has nothing to do with like anything at all. And that is like when that Instagram referenced that's what they were talking about when they said they know that his family and friends know that people stalk them. That's what people do. Though any of the like Instagram accounts that have disappeared in the last like year or so is because those Instagram accounts were literally stalking their family and friends. Like anyone who was ever in a picture with them, they would message them and ask them for like pictures that no one's ever seen before or stories about them or things about them, and then they would post them online. And so obviously those are going to get banned by the people that work for them when you are crossing boundaries that hard. But it's just like an overall thing with famous people, and it gets more complicated when they're young people like this. To just like think about how you would feel if people were doing that kind of stuff with you and how weird that would be. Like he just was filming for 8 months of his life, and he's Percy Jackson, and so filming for him is really intense. The longest hours on set, the most everything, the most lines, the most everything. And so going home after that, I'm sure he's still tired. Even though they've been home for like a month, I'm sure he's still tired from that. And he's also somehow trying to figure out how to do normal school for the last 3 months of the year.
And work. He's talked sporadically about wanting to work and have like a part-time job.
Yeah, he's talked before about how hard it is to all of a sudden have to like start over from nothing whenever he goes home. He's the only one of the cast that still goes to like regular high school. The rest of the cast, Leah goes to like school of some kind, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them do like half and half, like online for some, and then like in person some of the time. But like Arian graduated from like an online high school sort of thing. And a lot like Dior did that, Charlie did that. Like he's, I think, the only one really that has still tried to make it work with going to like a regular high school. And that's already, that would be a lot to all of a sudden go home after being gone for so long and trying to figure out how to like redo your life. I'm just remembering when I was in high school and like being gone for 9 months was like an eternity and a half because of how slow time goes by at that age. Just like family wise, having like a sibling be gone for that long and then suddenly show up and be at home again would disrupt like absolutely everything. Like if my sister was gone for 9 months and then she suddenly came back home, that would be so weird to like get used to them being around again. Like it was weird when I was in college and I would be gone for like 3.5 months or something, and then I would come back home for like a month. Everything would be like so strange. I would feel like I was like a guest in like their house because I wasn't there most of the time anymore. And so we just try to like humanize these kids, I guess. And I don't see it as much. The only thing I think of is that the other kids don't experience it as much because they all live in the LA area where there's so many people and celebrities and stuff. Yeah. That it's a little bit different than rural Pennsylvania. Like if there was a famous person like this where I lived, people would notice, and like I live in the Midwest, so people would just like, we tend to leave famous people like that alone. We just kind of say hi to them, but like try not to bother them too much because that's just like the Midwestern way of doing stuff. We don't want to make them mad basically, and we just kind of let them be. Like there's famous Packer, like Green Bay Packer players, because I live in Wisconsin, that lived where I grew up because it's a rich area, even though my family was very poor. It was, there's very rich people that live there, even though my family was very much not. And so there were people like that that were just around, and we knew that they were around. It was definitely a little bit weird, in a way of like, oh, that's somebody that we watch on TV every week when they play on the Packers. This is strange.
Mhm.
But people just generally like don't bother them. But East Coast people tend to like get up in people's faces and bother you.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure he gets like some interesting reactions from people out there. Especially if people go there specifically to find him, which it seems like sometimes people do. And like, please do something else with your time.
Yes,
Like,
use that money for a real vacation. Go do something fun. Um, I think so. What you'll notice, like Shannon was saying, that video of him at Disneyland, he did not look happy, first of all. And when you approach somebody when they're not expecting it, you're maybe not going to get the best response. But versus you see these kids at actual meet and greets, actual events that like are designed for them to go out and meet their fans, they're a little bit more friendly. And even some of the videos of people recording while they're on set, a little bit nicer, because they're kind of at work. They're somewhat expecting to be watched. They're somewhat expecting that if they're in a public place, there's the potential that you could be there. So, the context of when you meet them does actually matter here because it lets them feel prepared and safe.
yeah, like I don't want them. One of the things that is hard that other child actors that are now adults, like, God, now I can't remember her last name, but whatever. There's been other prior child actors that have written books or just talked about this sort of thing, that a lot of them end up like never leaving the house at a certain point in their life, because whenever they leave, people would come up to them and talk to them, and the anxiety of that just got to be so much that they just like didn't go anywhere, because they didn't want to have to worry about somebody weird coming up to them. Like some of them have mentioned like having stalkers and stuff when they were literal, like way younger even than these kids were children. And Alison Stoner, that's who I was thinking of. Alison Stoner, in her book, I haven't read the book because I think it would be too triggering for me, but I have seen reviews where they talked about how when she was 8 years old, she had a stalker that
Oh my
used to show up at her like dance studio that she had to go every day to like practice for the routines that she would do on like the Ellen Show and TV and things like that, and the music videos that she was in. And the people, like her management or like the whoever, like couldn't do anything about it. And so some of the time she would show up to her dance studio when she was 8 years old and her stalker would be there. She would have to tell the dance studio people about it, and then they would call the police, and the police would get the person to leave. But that was just like a part of her life where like people like her just like stopped interacting with fans altogether. Like it was interesting. She talked about how she started off like trying to interact with fans some because she felt bad and wanted to talk to them, and then felt bad about not interacting with them when they were supporting her career and everything. And then it got to a certain point where it became too much, where she couldn't do it anymore, where she just like cut it off completely. So it didn't seem like she was talking to some and not others. And I'm like, that's literally what Walker did. Like, literally, that's exactly what he did. He used to interact with fans. And then when Percy season 1 came out, it became too much and he just cut it all off completely. And I'm like, I'm glad that somebody must have given him that advice, because that is like the best thing to do in this situation. Because people already like create these sort of situations between him and the other cast mates and stuff out of literally nothing. And so if there were any interactions happening, it would get even more wild than it already can be sometimes. But it's just that whole idea that this is like an actual concern for child actors. They're still children, and so they don't have any like help. Like children don't have any like real help to help protect them really. And it's not anything that against like the people that work for him or his family or anything like that. Those people definitely care about him as a person. I'm not saying that, but it's just that you can't control everyone all the time. And that's like part of the whole thing is that when everybody knows where you live and they can figure out where your high school is because people leaked pictures of you in the uniform, and they won't delete those pictures no matter what people say to them to delete them and stuff. And especially if they figure out who your siblings are, and they also see what your siblings are doing too, and other people like that. Yeah, it's just too hard for people. It's too easy for people to find you. And it's just always a good, I guess, reminder to remember that these kids and just celebrities in general are people, and that they shouldn't be obligated to be nice to you. This is definitely like a thing from leftover from how people react to Chappell Roan, but celebrities should tell you to fuck off, and you should deal with it. You don't get to be like break through every boundary and treat them like not even like a real person, and then and they should not have to be nice to you. This is like a thing that I feel like applies when we're online. If somebody is leaving me a really angry, like mean comment where they're obviously trying to be mean and hurt my feelings on purpose, I'm not going to be nice to you. Why would I be nice to you? You don't deserve it. And like some people are like, oh, is this the way that you talk? I'm like, yeah, if you're an asshole, this is how I'm going to talk to you. You don't deserve you don't get niceness just because I'm putting myself out on the internet. This is not how this works. You prove that you're somebody that's following us. You need to prove that you deserve to be here. If you're going to be a jerk, I'm going to be a jerk back to you and then block you so you never can see our content again. Like, I don't want followers that badly that I'm willing to put up with that behavior. And I don't think that celebrities should deal with that either.